Episode 134 of the 77 Club. Harry, start with the socials.
The Wolves 77 Club on Facebook and Instagram, at 77 Club Podcast on Twitter. And also our YouTube's going quite well, so please subscribe there if you want to see us visually and look at Bayliss looking like Chris Kamara this week. You can do.
Jack Williams is here.
Hello, everybody.
And as we say, the Chris Kamara lookalike, Dan Bayliss, with his headset on. Just explain that one, Dan.
I haven't got my normal nice noise-cancelling headphones. I'm on the...
I thought you got them to be the
classics.
wingback correspondent.
I've got a proper microphone, so it won't sound rubbish, but I'll keep this here just for dramatic video effect.
Just for the visuals. Perfect. Well, on the day the planets align this week, Wolves stars failed to shine against Burnley at Turf Moor.
Been writing that all
like
morning.
That, didn't you? That's why I'm on the big bucks. Harry, let's go through that team, because I think everybody was sort of looking at it and going, that's a bit of a gamble, and it turned out to be a bit of a gamble.
It was a what the hell moment for me when I seen the team drop. Otasawi, they had him down as in midfield with Pedence and Neto up front, but it felt like at times he was actually up front. No Marcel, no Bolly. Kilman on the right side of a back five. It just shocked me, mate. I sort of said last week I wanted us to play a back four. We didn't. We played a five away at Burnley. And it didn't work. I love Nuno. He's the messiah. He's been brilliant for us, but I think he's made a big mistake there. And I think his team lineup, which started that game, has cost us the result there. I really do.
Jack, Kilman, Cody Sace at the back. No place for Bolly and Aït-Nouri coming in for Marcel as well. I'm guessing that they'd taken some knocks and just haven't got the players to fill the bench. I think that's what Nuno was sort of looking at post-match.
Yeah, I think that must be the case, really. And when you lose players like Bolly and also Dendoncker against a big physical team like Burnley, you're going to struggle really in some areas. We started quite brightly, I thought. I was quite impressed. First 15 minutes, we did all right, and then it just didn't click at all. I think especially after we led in the first goal, and you saw it. We just didn't know how to play against even stuff like long balls. But Burnley completely did a job on us. We're much the better team. I was actually surprised we even managed to score at the end. I know it was by virtue of a penalty, but I think 2-0 Burnley would have been a more than fair scoreline based on that. And it's just, I know football's a funny old game, but to just go from that performance against Chelsea to then change that many things, whether they be forced or unforced, against Burnley and just not perform, it's just disappointing. And you could be a fan. I know Twitter was obviously going into overload and saying people calling for Nuno's head and stuff like that. But on the other hand, I think we've all got to say that I think Nuno did get it wrong that night. And just because you can say he got it wrong on this occasion, and he's got it wrong in the past, you just got to have a bit of faith in him to pull it out of the bag like he normally does. But it's just inconsistency, and it was a worrying performance. And yeah, the team selection was just a bit strange, and it would, given the injuries or not, I think there was just things that were just a bit strange. And like I said, the Otasawi thing was, although he played well, but then to put him basically up front is strange. That's the only thing I can say.
Go over live to our wingback correspondent, Dan Bayliss. Dan, how are wingbacks looking?
Weak. Weak is the only word I can use to sum up the performance at Burnley. Burnley, as Jack said, did an absolute job on us. Brilliant by them. I thought we looked good first 10, 15 minutes. You thought, we're going to get one here and that'll be the game over with and we'll run away with it. Burnley held firm. Our efforts were half decent, but slightly tame. And then did what they did. They've basically got 11 big bastards who can head everything, out-muscle everybody, and they did the job. You saw it coming. Wood went for an overhead kick that Say sort of nudged him off. You thought, there's the first sign of trouble. They're whipping balls into the box, and then they lump one in, and he gets to it at the back post. We're playing Say, who isn't the biggest bloke on earth. Aït-Nouri's a child. No Bolly. Cody. There's trouble there against a team like Burnley, and they played fantastically. Fair, 3 cheers to Burnley. Well done for playing their shithouse football.
3 cheers for Ramirez.
Yeah, terrible to watch, but did the job on us. Mason was crap. Nuno's right. Mason's awful, but we've known that for years, so it doesn't really matter, does it? Otherwise, very poor by Wolves. Go again, but it'll be classic Wolves, won't it? Lose to Villa, lose to Burnley, beat Chelsea, beat Spurs. So.
Harry, we'll come up on some of those points that Dan made there, but the first one being was the physicality of that Wolves side. Obviously, if you take Dendoncker and Bolly out of the Wolves side, the physicality is pretty much non-existent, really, especially with no Jimenez as well, with that physical presence. It obviously played a part, didn't it?
It did, yeah. And although the man Otasawi is a big lad, big unit, he got bullied around the shop as well, didn't he? I don't know if you could put that down in experience. And it's clever play from Burnley. They know what they're doing. They took the advantage of Lee Mason as well. You know,
I did notice, Harry, that Otasawi was a bit he chucked himself in a lot to tackles.
Yeah.
He's going to get himself in trouble in the Premier League doing that more often.
Yeah.
You can do that against Burnley's lads because they're big boys. But if you start doing it against the likes of the Twinkle Toes, they'll soon start rolling around on the floor.
Yeah, and on the point of being bullied, that's why I don't know if Marcel was injured or Bolly was injured, but they're the two you need against Burnley. I mean, Marcel's he's got a bit of a mean streak about him. Him compared to Ait Nori in terms of physical attributes. You put Marcel in, don't you? It just baffled me the starting lineup. I was just scratching my head, and I think I tweeted out I didn't like the team, but let's trust Nuno. But I was thinking in the back of my head, this has got to go right, else the backlash is going to be harsh, and it was, and deservedly so, because it was a mistake by Nuno.
Jack, obviously, Bayliss mentioned it there. Lee Mason, the referee, Nuno came out after the game and said essentially he wasn't fit to referee, can't control the players, can't let the game flow, and that impacts decisions. Didn't mention any key decisions as for him being weak. It's just his overall performance as a referee. And does he have a point? Do you agree with Bayliss?
I think that there weren't any key decisions that spring out obvious, but this must have kind of been boiling under the surface with Nuno, because it's unlike him to comment on referees at all. Yeah. The trouble is, though, if he was going to do this and raise it in the public forum, he should have done it after we'd won a game, not after we'd lost a game. And then people would just
sour grapes, isn't it?
Not immediately dismiss it as being sour grapes for that sort of thing. But it's interesting what he said. But maybe there's an issue with the way that Mason referees the game, which obviously, from the stands or watched on TV, you'd never really know, because you can't hear what's being said really. Even when it's empty, you can't hear every word that's being said or how it's going on. So maybe he obviously just doesn't like the way that he works really. But the fact that for Nuno to come out and say something like that and stick to his comments as of today, as of a few days later, rather than backtrack, even though the FA have called him out on them, shows there probably is something wrong. But I think Nuno said it wasn't the time to do it, and I think it's right really. If you want to do that, then make a complaint separately, not do it in your post-match interview when you've just basically had a job done on you, because people will just dismiss it straight away. But maybe there is an issue with it, but all round our performance wasn't good enough. We didn't create enough going forward. I mean, Fabio Silva must be scratching his head to wonder why he didn't start when you're playing a midfielder up front. And thinking back to just moments like when Neves lost the ball and gave him just a clear-cut chance.
Neves was shocking, wasn't he? Neves,
it was just, and Ait Nori just always seems to be on the wrong side of his man when he's defending, and every time, and just inexperience and poor team selection, poor all-round performance, and Daniel Ponence needs to just lay off Instagram when he's annoyed.
I think just before we get into Podence with Bayliss, what happens now with Nuno and the FA? Because it almost seems like if you criticise a referee, you're going to get fined for it, and it just seems to me like you can't have an opinion in football unless it fits the criteria of the Football Association.
Yeah, he'll definitely get fined, won't he? He might even get a match ban or something, but I don't know how their punishments work. It's all utter nonsense with the FA, isn't it? We know that. They know that. We've seen it in the VAR debacle. If the ref gives a penalty, it's a penalty. If he doesn't, it usually isn't. So the whole thing's all fabricated to suit the line of the FA.
Do you think he'll keep doing it, Harry? Do you think a fine would put him off?
Well, he never does it, so I don't know. Probably not.
He sticks to his morals, doesn't he?
The only thing I can think of, right, is Jose Mourinho does this a lot. When a performance has been that bad, he'll try and find a way to deflect the situation onto the referee or himself. So maybe Nuno was just trying to do something like that. I don't know, or maybe generally was just sharing his true feelings for once, because you can literally script Nuno's post and pre-match press conferences most of the time anyway. So It was nice to find something a little bit different come out of his mouth, although it will get him a fine, but I'm sure he can afford a 20 grand fine. I'm sure he's got enough money. He'll be all right.
There were 3 or 4 players on that pitch that just didn't look like they wanted to be there.
Who were they?
They just looked out of place. Neves being the first one. Ait Nori had a bad game. Semedo just...
There it is.
Ding, 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 ding,
ding. There it was, Semedo.
There's one incident we're going to talk about, and then Traore, I thought...
Go on, to talk about the incident that you...
The thing I really didn't like, and it's something that really gets my goat, especially when we're playing with wing-backs, is when Burnley scored their goal, Semedo had the ball up the pitch and we got dispossessed in that little 1-2 with Podence. When the ball went in the net, Semedo was still in the Burnley attacking half. The guy that got the assist for Burnley started higher up the pitch than Semedo did. So if you're going to play as a wing-back, get your fucking arse in gear or piss off back to Spain.
Jack, bring in on that?
Don't
Don't go via Calais, for goodness sake.
The fact we let in that goal was not Semedo's fault.
No, but it's
Point, though. I like the
principles of
principle of that.
football.
I do like the principle. He should be busting a gut when he's lost the ball to get back.
I'd have to watch it back to actually see
All right,
how
Wenger.
quickly either the Burnley players or everyone moved.
It's completely true. Jack,
yeah,
I've watched it. You've got to trust my word. I'm completely right on
Okay,
it.
all right, but I also do think that he's just being the scapegoat here because when the break there was with Podence and Semedo, you have a go at Semedo for not getting forward enough. He's got forward this week. Granted, the move's fallen apart with Podence, and you have a go at him still rather than the other 8 players who are behind the ball.
Performance was bad. We know the
for him.
performance was bad, right? We're all happily saying it was a bad Wolves performance. No one stuck out, but it's those little principles that happen in football matches that set the tone, don't they? If the guy that gets the assist starts further up the pitch than you did, what's your excuse for not getting back?
Yeah,
Especially then as you're playing as wing back.
Do you mean like you wish you'd have shown more effort? Because let's be honest, he'd have had to have been like Clark Kent Superman to get back and cover from that distance. But
I would have rather him sprinted down the pitch, chopped the bloke down just outside the box and got a red card than just waltz back just over the halfway line, which is where he ended up when the ball went in.
I suppose that's the point, isn't it, Harry, that the Burnley guy wasn't Clark Kent and managed to get in the box before Semedo did that.
Yeah, but Semedo had also just darted up the pitch on a counter-attack.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want him to do? Just to run backwards and forwards? He's just busted a gut to get up there.
For me,
he busted a gut to get back.
Doherty did
it was a quick counter-attack.
Oh,
It'd have been some serious effort to cover and get back. It happened so quick.
But the Burnley guy got there and got the assist, Harry.
Yeah,
because
because when you're attacking, it's just easier and it to fly forward. Like he just fell over with Podence. They were doing a little 1-2. You know what I
That's
mean?
the attitude, then, isn't it?
I think
that's the Wolves'
harsh.
attitude of our wing backs. Then we're going to lose a lot of games and concede a lot of goals on the counter.
What about Kilman?
What about the other
covering? Why not blame them? Like, why didn't they stop the cross?
I'm not just blaming him specifically.
Sace like
for the loss, but I'm saying it's those little
eight
things.
Nori weakness when Barnes heads it into the net. Do you know what I mean? You can't just sing out Semedo when he was 80 yards up the pitch and the lads in the box could have cleared it away for an header.
There are a lot of things that went wrong, but I'm talking about the attitude of football and the attitude of footballers. And for me, what I saw there is really unacceptable.
Charlie Taylor was the Burnley player, by the way, just so different name. I mentioned in the group, I've felt it for a long time now. I've taken stats over 3 seasons. Ruben Neves is becoming a passenger for Wolves. Dan, you disagreed. I'll start with you because I want to go around the group with this.
I did to start with, but I noticed he had a very bad game.
So over the 3 seasons, 35 games in the first season since promotion, 4 goals, 3 assists. 38 games last season, 2 goals, 2 assists. 13 appearances this season, no goals, no assists. What would you say constitutes a passenger if it isn't those stats?
I think he's been weaker than he has been. I still think he's done good things. I've seen positive things from him, but you are right. He hasn't popped up with goals. I haven't seen him in that position where he unleashes those vicious shots. I mean, Spears went on about something about how he hit one against Burnley, but I thought it was a pretty tame effort, to be honest, compared to a normal Ruben Neves. Yeah. I think the example of it for me is the goal he scored against Sheffield Wednesday away, where he almost gets it 25 yards out and passes it into the corner of the net.
Yes.
That's the Neves that you want to see. He hasn't really done that yet. And then he's, the one against Man United last year at Molineux.
Yeah, because I mean, that Sheffield Wednesday one was in the Championship 3 years ago. So
he's going through a quiet.
But the point that the question that was raised, I think Aaron raised it, didn't he? Is that Ruben Neves or is it Nuno?
I think he's playing too deep, isn't he? Let's be honest. That just seems to be his role now. In the Championship, he'd always be lingering on the edge of the box, and sometimes in the beginning of his Premier League era too. And his free kicks were good, which I don't know what's happened to them either. All his worldies mainly have been in the Championship. It's very strange. He hasn't. You can count on one hand in the last few months how many good performances he's had. Like you say, Sam, it's quite a harsh word, passenger, but I can't really argue against it because he's been really, really disappointing. And I think I'd drop him and keep playing Dendoncker and Martino if they're both fit over him, which is sad to say because he has been so good over the first few years he was with us.
I think he's, just a bit stagnant, but you said the magic word then, free kicks, but we've got to talk about our set pieces, man, and our corners, because what is going on there? We have just got no threat,
short.
whether it be from a set piece, every corner. We're the only team who must take more short corners than they do just whip the ball in the box. And we send the defenders up. We're sending Cody up now, and we're sending up Bolly usually, or Kilman, whoever it might be playing. And then we piss around. We take a short corner. Burnley had obviously done their homework because they're not stupid. Every team's going to do their homework and see, they like short corners. So there's two men there straight away, maybe encroaching a little bit on where they should be. We try and change the angle, but by the time we've done that, it's either gone back to the defence or the chance is gone. And we don't learn from it. Repeat it and we do it again. And then we'll do it again. We think, what should we do now? Should we whip it in? Granted, we had the smallest two bloody centre, Neto and Podence, probably the smallest two attacking players, who were technically playing up front, didn't help. But you still, eventually, when you take a short corner, you're going to have to whip it in the box at some point. So why don't I just try and whip it in the box more than we do? Is it because we haven't got people who can head? Is it because we hate the angle that much? Or we have not got a proper free kick and corner taker?
When did we last score from a set piece?
Oh, I don't know.
A header. So, you see that
Sheffield United first game, Sace header.
Yeah. And
that's
what
against
do we
the
do?
team that currently sit on 1 point, 2 points.
And that wasn't a short corner. They just whipped it in first time.
Whipped it in?
Yeah.
But it's just starting to wind everybody up, man. I mean, it gets down to like the dying minutes and you're thinking, right, everyone up, just get the ball in the box. And we still take it short when we're chasing the game in injury time. And it's like, I don't understand what we're trying to achieve. If we scored 1 out of every 3, you'd have the patience with it. But we're a team who it takes twice as many chances to score a normal goal anyway. And on a short corner, when was the last time we scored a goal?
Do you know what the realisation is here, Jack? Is that the only ball that's been whipped in for the bloke this year, he scored. And it was Connor Cody for England.
Yeah, fair.
But it's just starting to wind people up, man. We need to have better set piece routines because at the moment people are just going to give us a corner because they know, hang on, it'll just end up back with their centre, whoever's covering it centre back in the middle of the park. Just end back with them if we close them down quickly enough. Because it's just shocking and not good enough. And that's my little rant.
Let's talk about Spurs because it's always a tasty game against Spurs, and that there's going to be a little bit of beef from last time we were there. Obviously, turning around from 1-0 down to win that one. Obviously, won the season before. Actually, I think from memory, on the same date of the first season back in the Premier League, and it was at Wembley. I'm guessing this is all going to be pretty much injury permitting, isn't it, Harry? Because it's not looking good for Bolly. It's not looking good for Dendoncker. It's not looking good for Marçal either. Where do you go from that Burnley defeat? Because there's not really many changes in there that you can make, and that's mostly down to injuries.
Yeah, and I saw Nuno was quoted as saying as like his worrying moments for us and that, which is not really good to hear because I think he's realising how bad it is at the moment. But for a start, you got to start Fabio Silva. We're not having Atasawi play up front again. And maybe start Traore, although he frustrated the life of me as well. When he come on against Burnley, he ignored Semedo. Semedo was overlapping and giving him an option just to lay it down the line so he could cross it. He just was ignoring him. He ignores everyone at the best of times.
He knows what happened, Harry.
Oh, yeah, lovely. But yeah, maybe start Traore, although he's meant to be going to Leeds, isn't he? So if he's not at Leeds, I don't know. But I'm worried about Spurs. I didn't think we'd beat Chelsea, but I had a little bit of optimism. I ain't even got an inch of optimism of us beating Spurs. I really haven't, especially if we play like we did against Burnley.
Let's go to Dan.
Yeah.
Any changes? I mean, would you look at dropping Semedo, going to 4 at the back against Tottenham, or do we need to do 5?
We can't play with Semedo and Aït-Nouri. I don't know what Marcel's doing, whether he's fit or not, but we cannot play Aït-Nouri and Semedo again. It's just not working. Is it
time for Hoover?
I don't know what it's time for.
What about him?
Someone's got to clean up. We're in trouble. Thank you and good night.
Jack, I guess just at the front, is it going to be a front 3 or a front 2 to begin with? What are you thinking on that? Or 1?
I think go back to when it looked all right, and the last time it probably looked, fairly decent is when we're playing with Fabio Silva. Because if you need somebody in that position, you need a striker. I know we're a team who plays with 1 striker, but you can't play with no strikers because you're not going to score. Scored now, confidence should be high. So I think you've got to, if you're going to play the front 3 and go for it, because even against Liverpool, Neto and Podence did create chances towards the start. So I think you've got to go with that really.
Harry, middle of the pack.
And
Moutinho, Neves, I think you got. I'd drop Neves out of that. I'd play Otasawi because I've seen good things.
And also with Otasawi, it put him in the middle, and he likes to go forward, which Neves don't. So Millie's a bit more positive and actually drive forward through the middle of the field, whereas Neves sits right in front of Cody most of the time and just does what Cody can do anyway. So yeah, I'd play Otasawi and like Moutinho maybe.
And then it will be most likely Kilman and Sace, when it just because of the injuries.
Well, Bolly was on the bench the other night, which is what I don't get. Because if you're injured, if you're on the bench,
well, I agree.
You have to play, aren't you? Really?
But in his comments today, he was sort of saying along the lines of, "We haven't got enough players to fill the bench." There were players on the bench that weren't able to play, so I'm guessing that it would have been the first teamers, the dead certs, the ones that play every week. Willy Bolly is obviously going to be one of those. I'd say Marcel, based on Aït-Nouri's performance ever since he scored against Palace. They're dead on start, aren't they? It'd be interesting to see what he does, because he has to do something, and he's always changed it after a defeat in the past. So let's do a score prediction, Harry.
4-0 Spurs.
That's unbelievable, because I'm going 4-0 Spurs.
Have we got 4-0 Spurs? To be fair, Jack, you rarely get them wrong. So listening with bated breath.
I don't think it'll be that bad, but I think it's going to be more like they'll come do a job on us. So I'm going to go 2-0 Spurs.
2-0 Spurs.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm obviously going to go 2-1 Wolves. Let's get